I feel like if you try and then you fail, it's like there's a bunch of people who want to dunk on you and be like, why did you try it all? Like, those people, right? Yeah. The guy took a swing. I hope he takes 7 more.
Welcome back to Gamified. I'm Peyton Kaleva here as a guest host this week while Sam plays Honeymoon. This week, Activision is promising no Clowny skins in Modern Warfare 4, saying keep the receipts. We will. But the real fight isn't over cosmetics. Tim Sweeney is back in court against Valve, screaming monopoly over Rainbow Six price threat, while Epic's own store still can't check out without a CAPTCHA. And the question is, should he be fighting this war? Because while Sweeney's busy suing Steam, Fortnite just dropped in extraction mode and lost 1 million concurrent players in a year. Then there's Brendan Greene. He built PUBG, made generational wealth, and spent it all on Prologue go way back. 6 months after launch, it is dead. Studio downsized. Greene says he reached the limit of how far he can fund this journey. Another founder who couldn't stop building cathedrals. So today's arc is clean. We're warming up with Call of Duty's latest broken promise. Then we're going deep on Epic, Steam versus Epic in the boardroom, and Fortnite runners on the field. Is Epic chasing trends to save a dying flagship, or is it just what a platform does when it refuses to be a B player? And we're closing with an autopsy on PlayerUnknown. What happens when one-hit founders bet the house on vanity projects? And to bring all these lovely topics to you, we have this amazing panel. First up is going to be Michael Christine. He's got one of the wildest combinations of credentials we've ever had on the panel. A lawyer, Nintendo publisher, manga author, and founder, making him a full multidisciplinary menace. What's up, Michael?
Hey, happy to be here, guys. Let's crush it.
All right. Next up is Knock. This guy is sharp-tongued chaos agent who always brings conviction, clarity, and just the right amount of combativeness to the conversation, leaving the Digital Collectors Club and likely ripping packs on the playing RuneScape as we speak. Definitely probably ripping packs right now with the DCC.
He's definitely playing RuneScape as we speak. Season just ended.
Season just ended. Next up is Dub. He is the beast behind Battle Trade, where you can trade with 1,000x leverage, which is crazy, against your friends. He's the bot in your Twitch streams, the best friend at your wedding. And if your name is Sam, it is Dub.
Yo, dude, this CSGO footage is actually torture. How dare you guys? I'm hooked, dude. That's my game of choice right now still.
Still one of the most goated clips of XQC Molotov. It's one of the best ever. For sure, Hall of Fame. All right, next up is Chris Heatherly. He spent 14 years working at Disney, and now he's here to spill the tea. He might be middle-aged, but he's more of a Zoomer than any of us on this panel. What is up, Chris?
Hey, how's it going? So do we get to substitute teacher you? Like yeah. Can we like, oh, Sam always lets us like, whatever,
yeah, exactly.
drink on the pod, you know.
That's what my 3-year-old says. He just like straight
Sam
up
always lets us eat as much candy as we want.
Well, I've already seen Michael Christine's back of his chair like 7 times, so we'll see how it goes.
Sam lets us leave whenever we want.
Yeah, I guess so. Next up is Koji. He's the co-founder of Parallel, the world's most successful trading card game. He is a tech entrepreneur and the king of cards. What is up, Koji?
How's it going? I like the show rundown at the beginning. We're getting more and more professional as the episodes go on. And I'm dodging the rumors that I'm dodging you, Peyton. I'm finally made it to an episode that you're hosting.
It has always been like, Sam says, hey, Peyton, can you cover for me this week? I was like, yeah, for sure. And then like over time, it's just like Koji has always said no. And I was like, yo, is Koji not wanting to be on whenever I'm hosting?
If Sam's not willing to show up for his own show, why should I show up? You know?
True. Very true. Very true. And finally, Will Spang, the champion of indie games, bellowing from the rooftops about the next big thing. Excuse me, under $10 from Game Cred. What's up, Will?
Hell yeah. No, it's been good to see the rest of the panel join the wired headphones movement. It's really starting to hit. I love to see it, guys. You will all convert eventually.
Always. All right, let's get into it, guys. I know you travel too much, Michael, that's for sure. Let's get into it. COD, no Clowny skins. What is the word? Infinity Wars says Modern Warfare 4 is staying grounded this time. No SpongeBob, no Lady Gaga, no Teletubbies. The official Call of Duty account is telling skeptical fans to keep the receipts. The problem is they said the exact same thing about Black Ops 7, and we got Fallout skins anyway. The community response has been unanimously mocking them. Keep the scripts has already become a meme. Is Activision actually capable of keeping a cosmetic promise for a full annual cycle, or is the monetization machine just too powerful to resist? What is that word? It reminds me of that meme of that person clicking the button and like, should he do it or not? Okay, let's go with, I think Dub, you're up, and then we'll go to Koji.
Dude, it's just like good marketing for me. I mean, I don't think this is a promise beyond that. Like, keep the receipts. as well as just another red flag of why this is like marketing wrote this more than anyone else wrote this. I think they wanted to say all those names again. And even though they're focusing down on all those stuff, like none of this had to be even like mentioned. The community didn't even, no one was talking about this. I mean, it's all expectation. I'm stoked for the game, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if they're going to be like, oh, we need to make money, the first thing they're doing is calling in Nicki Minaj, like, so keep the receipts actually. And, good marketing overall is all this is for me.
Okay. Marketing is the word. Koji, what is your word?
I got 2 words.
Do it.
And they're
I'm the substitute teacher, so you can do whatever you want.
Who cares? Like I maintain that nobody is playing these things for the story and the immersion of the game, right? Like they want the tactical element, they want the shooter element of it, obviously, but like, could they incorporate skins that make more sense for the world? Sure, like give me a Jack Ryan, whatever the new movie is that's about to come out, skin. Give me a whatever other special out, Expendables 10 skin, fine. Nice. But like I don't think it matters. Like I really don't think that if you put a bunch of silly shit in this game, people are going to stop playing it, right? We have a topic later on about a game that has come and gone, and it's because people just keep coming back to the same things that they know over and over again, and it doesn't even matter how bad people say this is. People could scream from the heavens like this game sucks, the last one was better, blah blah blah, and then all they do is like, hey, let's reintroduce a map that you guys played for 1,000 times previously, and people are like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
100%.
So I don't know. I think for me, it's maybe the word is inconsequential.
Ooh, okay. Bring us back there. All right, next up is Michael.
So my word here is differentiation. And then
the words here, guys. Why are the words so crazy, man? Yeah, of course. Go in. Everybody else is.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we were rounding the horn.
That's my fault. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. So my word is differentiation. And the reason for that is right now, when you see these cartoony skins, to me, the thing that they're trying to compete against directly is Fortnite, because Fortnite has all the skins, everybody's playing so many different IPs all in one game. And when you think about Fortnite compared to Call of Duty, at least I'm going to go with my generation being the millennials, we looked at Fortnite more as like the kids game. Like that's the little kid game. And then Call of Duty is the adults game. And don't get me wrong, that has now changed since 2017. Like a lot of adults now play. A lot of people have aged up into Fortnite. That's what they grew up with. Now they're adults and they're still playing it. But Call of Duty was always supposed to be that like more serious, gritty, hardcore style of game. So to me, this is a really good move if they actually fall through, because if you ask the average Call of Duty player, they didn't want Call of Duty to become Fortnite. They wanted it to be Call of Duty. They actually, the reason Call of Duty, I think, is failing so much, or not failing, obviously, in terms of sales, but just kind of overall reputation, is they keep doing all this stuff that people don't want. Like the boss battle of the last Call of Duty being like a giant guy. Like, no one wants that. We play Call of Duty because it's real, or like, sort of real. And Fortnite's supposed to be that surreal experience that people can take. So to me, I think the differentiation is going to be huge if they're able to actually follow through. And it's going to really at least set a new benchmark for Call of Duty, being like, this is the direction we're going down. We're not trying to be like everybody else. We're going to stay true to ourselves and give the fans what they want.
Right. There was a lot of backlash with Black Ops 7 with the campaign as well, too, and just how it was completely just disproportionate from what everything else in terms of the Modern Warfare series as well, too. So, Wills, what you got, buddy?
Look, I mean, try as they might, the COD players are never going to be able to take the clown skin off themselves for keeping buy and play these games. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I like Black Ops 7. Like, everyone was like, oh, Black Ops 7 was where things really fell off the radar. I remember going to a buddy's house and watching them boot up Black Ops 4. That shit looked like a mobile game. The amount of like UI, UX stuff that they had going, it was atrocious. Call of Duty has been losing their way for a while. And look, I think, this is them trying. This is a direct response to a conversation that we were having almost a year ago about when we were saying, I think it was Battlefield 6 versus it was Black Ops 7 to Battlefield 6,
right.
I think. And that this was the whole marketing point that Battlefield was trying to make, was that we're a real gritty game. We're here for people that like games, while Call of Duty was releasing fart guns for their new game. And it's like, that's no wonder they had such a negative response, because it's people are getting sick of that. And I think it's so funny that all of this stems from the fact that everyone's trying to be Fortnite. That's what killed Destiny. That's what killed Black Ops 4. Frankly, it's what's killing Fortnite right now. Exactly. Like everyone's been trying to be Fortnite, and that model isn't even working for Fortnite. So we're in this. I think this is just a really telling sign of how misguided we've been as an industry, at least in the AAA shooter space over the last sort of 5 years. And I think that this is a natural course correction.
I know this is kind of going a little bit off script though, Wills, because a lot of you guys mentioned Fortnite. I know it's a later on the topic, but in terms of like Fortnite, in terms of the skins and all that stuff, but it's also lost kind of its way too. But like, why do you think that is, Wills? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where is everyone leading to? Because it seems like Call of Duty's not getting it. Arc Raiders is seeing a pretty big drop off. Like, where is everyone going in terms of the gaming industry? Like, where are they headed to?
People want curated experiences. People want to feel like they're playing a game that speaks directly to them and makes them feel special, makes them feel something. And that's what Fortnite did for a little bit with the skins. It was like, holy shit, Goku is in a video game. This is the craziest thing ever. And that was crazy for like 3 years. But then when they started putting in Homer Simpson and everyone else, and then everyone's in Fortnite, then it's not special anymore. You lose that kind of factor. And I think that that's what's happened with all of these games. Gaming used to be niche. So when big brands came into games, it was a big deal. Gaming is no longer niche anymore. So those big brands coming in and doing events isn't cool anymore. It's not hip. Yeah. It's not like, oh, wow, look, this brand is activating in games. Everyone's activating in games. We have entire conferences dedicated to brands activating in games. So I think we need to go back to brass tacks as an industry. We need to figure out what it is. How can we create really unique experiences that speak to players? And that comes down to gameplay. That comes down to like, how do people feel when they're playing the game? Not what are they wearing? What are the unique mechanics that make me want to play this over something else? Because I can get Nicki Minaj anywhere. That's not a selling point anymore. Gameplay is. And that's why I think we're going to see many more kind of smaller shooters pop up that have unique gameplay hooks. I think Call of Duty is leaning into its more realistic past, and it has the budget to pull that off. But I think we're going to see gamers, to answer your question more directly, I think we're going to see gamers spreading into the games that speak more directly to them. So it's not going to be the game for everyone like Fortnite was trying to be. That clearly doesn't work. So how do I find 100,000 people that have a very specific taste and just monetize the shit out of them? That's the model moving forward.
Nice. Yeah. 3 flowers for you on that one, Will. So good job on that one. We also have to check your search history. Over to you, Knock. Knock, you're muted, I think, buddy.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. The word is value, as in there just wasn't enough for COD to continue doing this. I mean, I'm going to push back on the realism point. Nothing screams realism like the actual trailer we're currently watching, where this guy ducks for cover by jumping 20 feet down 3 stories, breaking both of his ankles and still shooting.
You don't think the drop shot is real, Knock?
Yeah. Like COD is not a place for realism. People who play games for realism are playing things like Tarkov. I think the problem with COD and the skins is, one, skins cost money to make. People think this is like some unlimited money printer where you can just partner with somebody, throw them in a game and make a bunch of money. You have to pay the licensing fee. You have to actually create those skins. You have to implement that into the universe. I think the problem with COD is, to Michael's point, COD is trying to be a realistic game while doing things like throwing in the T-1000 into a game, or T-100 into a game. Like, you can't have Terminator characters in Call of Duty. It feels stupid. Whereas a game like Fortnite, it's already fantastical. It's already over the top. So having a guy like Homer Simpson in Fortnite does not feel like a stretch. Sure, it's a brand partnership, but it doesn't feel ridiculous. I think the problem here is COD just wasn't making enough money to validate or to justify continuing to do this. And the second piece is they're getting, like, B and C tier partnerships. Like, they did a partnership with the John Wick franchise, and who did they use? They used fucking Rogue, Eve Morocco, like a secondary character, not even the main character.
Finish him.
Put some goddamn respect on John Wick's name, first of all. That's crazy. That's an S tier partnership.
Not only does Dub not read the topics, he also doesn't listen to things that have nothing to do with John Wick. My point was they didn't even use John Wick in Call of Duty. So they have second-tier skins. The skins aren't selling well, and it doesn't fit well with the team. I think this is a monetary reason more than anything else, and they're doing it to give themselves a little bit of good PR going into a new game, and hopefully people will buy it because, we got rid of the skins that nobody was buying anyway.
Right. Good points all around there. We're going to end here with Chris.
I agree with a lot of what's said. I mean, Steve Jobs used to say that more important than knowing what to do is knowing what not to do. And I think that we got into a season where everything wanted to be take all your time and all your money and be everything. And I think that a lot of these promotional things kind of took away from the personality of Call of Duty, and as they tried to chase Fortnite instead of being themselves, and Battlefield came in and capitalized off of that. And I think they, the overall problem that I think Xbox has is that they, forgot about the core gamer and the core Xbox fan. And so I think they're in a season over there of like refocusing on the heart and soul of who their audience is. Hopefully, it seems like a lot of moves are trying to go in that direction, or at least pretending to. And part of that is making Call of Duty again. I mean, it's a military shooter, right? Its background is a military shooter. Yes, they've done more, some more, science fictional things or whatever, but those have never really worked, right? When they did I forget what was the futuristic, the Space Marine version they did. It was
Advanced
Infinite
Warfare,
War,
I think.
right?
Yeah, something like that. Advanced Warfare.
That flopped, right? People don't want that in Call of Duty. And the other thing is, I think that as someone who's done a lot of these licensing integrations, I mean, I kind of fucked up Club Penguin this way. Doing too many brand integrations with Disney in order to get time on the Disney Channel, because they would only cover us if we were doing other Disney priorities. They didn't treat us like an IP, right?
Right.
And so, we wound up having to do more and more of that because it was the freest form of marketing we could get. But it also made the product too commercial and kind of, it's when we did it with like the Star Wars party, and we did it with the Marvel party at first, it was like new and it was fresh.
Right.
And then it got to be like, by the time you get to like the Shake It Up party, people are like, what is this, And I think that's what happened with Call of Duty and some of these things, where everyone's right. Fortnite has created a personality that they're the mashup, but that's not Call of Duty's personality. So I think they're just being smart and refocusing.
Yeah, I think they are. I think Arc Raiders also did a really good job. I think they had a partnership with Milwaukee, which is obviously for people that don't know, power tools and stuff like that. That's what it was, and it just matched really well, right, for the target audience that is playing. And yeah, it was really cool. And then I just it's gaming. Will said something is gaming just becoming hyper personalized. It's there really no space for interactive world lobby anymore, or is that just social media? It's just really a good question to ask, maybe for a further topic on it. But let's move on to Steam versus Epic. Did Valve bully Ubisoft? New antitrust court documents just surfaced. Allegedly, Steam threatened to delist Rainbow Six Siege by the end of day tomorrow, they said, unless Ubisoft stops selling a cheaper starter pack on Ubisoft Connect. Ubisoft caved and price match. Seems like a very much Apple move. Tim Sweeney jumped on it immediately, but the replies roasted him for hypocrisy because Epic pays for timed exclusives to keep games off Steam. Steam takes 30% and controls 70 to 80% of PC game sales. Epic takes 12%. Sweeney calls it bullying. Critics call it sour grapes. Your Epic's board of directors, okay, all 6 of you, is this a righteous fight against a monopoly, or is Sweeney beating a dead horse while his own store still can't check out without a CAPTCHA? Should he keep going or let the Epic store be a B player and focus on Fortnite? Let's go with Knock, and then we'll head over to Koji.
Get your fucking shut the fuck ups going already, boys. I know you're going to disagree with this one here. But listen, can the answer be everybody is wrong? This is a stupid fight on the side of Epic. We saw what this did to them. Yeah, they won their fight against Apple, or they seem to have are winning their fight against Apple. But the toll there was a massive distraction for the course of multiple years, right? Do they really need to get into it with another monopolistic distributor of games? Probably not, especially when Fortnite and UEFN are not doing well. Is what Tim Sweeney's saying true? Yeah, look, we can both be wrong in picking this fight and be right in the fact that what he's saying is objectively true. I mean, I'm waiting for the mental gymnastics from the other panelists here, but the fact of the matter is this. Ubisoft was told that they were not allowed to price a different version of their game on their own website because of the price that game was listed at for a different version on Steam. That is objectively a bad thing. Those are monopolistic tendencies. That's forcing price parity. It is the literal definition of antitrust, and it's why there's an antitrust lawsuit against Steam. Just because you like the monopoly and just because you view it as a good monopoly does not mean it's not a monopoly, and Steam was acting with monopolistic powers here. So, yes, it is an objectively bad thing. No, Steam should not be able to do that. People should, despite the fact that it's Ubisoft and everybody likes to kick them when they're down. I'm chief Ubisoft hater. They deserve it sometimes, not in this case. Also, Epic shouldn't be picking this fucking fight when their own house is not in order. Everybody is wrong. Tim Sweeney's also kind of right.
Yeah, exactly. They're already dead. This kind of thing with Ubisoft for me. Koji, we'll go to you.
Yeah, this might shock some people, but I 100% agree with Nock entirely. Like, this is basically the Walton family fighting with Jeff Bezos. It's just like, pick your favorite billionaire. For those of you who don't know, the Walton family owns Walmart. It's just like, okay, do I want to get my goods from a greedy worldwide corporation or an even greedier worldwide corporation, right? And it's just like, oh. Yes, you can be the bad guy and still be right. I think that like Tim Sweeney, Steam is the bigger threat in this regard because like, yeah, you shouldn't really allow price fixing. Like it's been illegal for as long as any sort of price fixing laws or like antitrust laws have existed basically. And so like to allow it digitally because we're like, well, Steam is mostly cool and not as shitty as some of those other distributors is like, then they can get away with whatever they want. That's like, how dictators are born. Right. And I think that like, basically like all this like, oh, I'm an Epic person, I'm a Steam person is just kind of like trying to distract you from the reality that all these guys want is to take your money, right? Yeah, Steam does it in a more maybe fair way in that like we'll give you more for the dollars you give us, but still like we want to stuff your library so full of stuff that you will never touch just to get more dollars from you that it doesn't matter. It's really just about how much can we milk from you at the end of the day. And so like, yeah, I don't think there are any good guys in this fight.
Very, very true. Wills.
No, 100%. I think I agree with a lot of the points that have been said. I think, the reason Steam is able to get away with so much of this is because if something happens to your account, they will find the person responsible, kick their door down and put a gun to their head and make them apologize to you directly. That's Steam customer service.
Say you're sorry.
Support. Exactly. That's how they've been able to garner so much goodwill from the community where stuff like this doesn't even really faze them. That being said, I do think that has a limit. I do think we are getting to a point where Steam is realizing now that, they aren't going to be able to get away with things like this the way that they used to be able to. The 70-30 price split that they've been running for, since inception is becoming more and more under question from publishers and developers launching on the platform alike. Is this really worth the value? And I think that we're going to start seeing more headlines like this. I mean, either we're going to start seeing more headlines like this, we're going to start seeing Steam adjust their strategy and help and better position their offering. Because I think that the main issue that Steam has been facing right now that has been calling into question the current price split is discoverability on the platform. And if they can solve discoverability and make themselves not only a distribution service, but a content sourcing platform as well, and they're able to nail that, then all of these questions go away because they're not only providing the distribution service for the games and sourcing for the users. So they're not just providing distribution, they're providing sourcing for the users and connecting them with the right kind of players, which they have the data and the capability to do. So that's why yes, this sucks. Are they probably going to keep doing it? Maybe. I really don't know. Like it's one of those things, as Koji said, where they're going to keep getting away with it as long as they can. But I think if they're able to supplement their offering to the point where Epic and other distribution platforms can't compete, it's just going to continue as is from a pricing perspective.
I just know who's winning right here is the lawyers, man. Dub, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I think the whole thing's a bit of a show because both companies probably have accepted that their natural order is to become a duopoly after the monopoly is like show is kind of over. I think about like Visa and MasterCard and how they're paying other competitors from entering into their tip turf and stuff like this. And this is just what Epic and Steam are going to do to continue to own the verticals that they own. Because if they just kind of play nice, but also like make people not think that they're working together, they can just control this entire market the way it is. And they'll make pivots and splits and revenues where they have to, where the community forces it, but they're just like doing everything they can to just push the show pony forward as long as they can, you know.
Little tin hat theory.
I love the theory that Gabe and Tim Sweeney are.
Yeah, just like
that's my new one. I love.
Yeah,
that.
Exactly. we'll go with that narrative. Sounds great to me. We'll go with Michael, and then we'll end with Knock on the last word there. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I had an illustrious career as a litigator. I was a top 40 under 40 litigator, was in trial all the time. One thing I can tell you right now, if I was Epic's attorneys, I would be so upset with Tim every single time he tweets. Because what I would do if I was on the other side is I would take Tim's tweets, and then I would make this all about Tim not liking the other side. All of that, I would completely have the jury look at the facts of the case completely differently, be like, this isn't about antitrust. This isn't about anything like that. It's not about monopoly. This is a personal grudge that this owner has with this company, and that's why he's going after them. And then I would be able to present a laundry list of tweets that support that. Right now, Epic has the most beautiful ammunition in their pocket, which is an email from Steam saying, hey, we're going to delist you from our platform if you don't sell the game for this price. Right there, that's how nation states or huge companies fight with nation states. That they say, well, we're just going to charge your people more in your country, which isn't right. And so that's what they're doing. That's the evidence that they need to prove that this is actually a monopoly or a trust or what you want to call it. And so right now, if I'm their lawyers, I'm like, Tim, shut up. Just go work, because your voice is only going to hurt us. It's not going to help us at all. And if I'm Valve's attorneys, I'm looking at every single tweet like the most beautiful courtroom exhibit ever that I'm going to blow up to like 100 times the size, show everybody, and then point out that this is just a grudge between two billionaires versus any kind of antitrust. And on this, sorry, I'm over my time, but
go.
It's clearly an antitrust, and they own 80% of the PC market. If they can tell a game, hey, you have to change your price, we're going to delist you, and that game has to listen because they're going to lose so much revenue if they don't.
And they did. They're like, okay.
Then like you have the perfect case for you. So it's like, hey, Tim, shut up. Let us do our jobs. You should just go do your job. And that's not tweeting.
Yeah. Steam said to grab your ankles, and Ubisoft was like, okay, yes, sir. Knock. And then we'll go to Chris.
Geez, that is a fucking crazy visualization. Listen, I think at the end of the day, the question, and this is Michael's point, the question is like, what do you have to gain from this if you're Epic, right? The reward for 3.5 years of this crusade against Apple was everything in their house being lit on fire, right? They didn't claim more. They didn't earn more back. They didn't make that money back that they spent on the lawsuit.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some argument to be made that downstream they can capitalize on that because of the outcome of that lawsuit with Apple. But the idea to come out of that, have everything be on fire, and then just jump right into another righteousness fight over a company that literally has nothing to do with what Epic is doing other than the fact that they are a competitor just feels stupid. And I think it's a larger symptom of what's happening in the gaming industry, where people are so far up their own you-know-whats that they are no longer paying attention to the thing that matters, which is delivering games that people actually want to play. I think it's just maddening to me that Tim Sweeney and the team there, after the last 4 or 5 years that they've had as Fortnite, year-over-year decline in player base, year-over-year decline in spend, a weakening UAFN proposal, choosing another battle like this is just so tone deaf. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I just cannot understand it.
Well, I love that Tim Sweeney went to bat for like Apple and all that stuff. And yes, I think it's also part of it is that we love Steam. But honestly, I love that he went and probably spent everything and like honestly probably destroyed Epic in the process to go after one of the biggest abusers, which is Apple. But we'll go over to Chris, and then I just saw you two, Wills, raise up your hand. So we'll go to Chris and then end with Wills.
So on the War of Two Billionaires, there are a couple books written by James Burnham in the early mid 20th century, one called The Machiavellians and the other one called The Managerial Revolution. And what you will learn in those books is that all power competition is between oligarchs and that we are all just picking our oligarchs. And so Tim Sweeney is my oligarch. I love Gabe and I love what he's done with Steam. I mean, look, Steam is kind of like one of the, or Gabe is like, die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. I think all of these guys become monopolists over time. And I think Steam, Gabe and the people at Valve have a very clear sense of what they think is right and what is wrong. And they have no problem imposing that on the marketplace instead of letting the marketplace decide. It happens in the form of things like the Scarlet Letter on AI and, other stuff that I disagree with. So, I feel like there's a trend of Steam becoming too paternalistic. And if you look at Tim, I mean, look, I think Tim was ultimately right that the App Store is too constraining and extractive and wasn't going to let him realize his vision of Fortnite. And, he was the guy who, maybe paid too big a price, but who punched the bully in the nose. Apple from Steve coming back, and I love Steve, but forward, it's just gotten more and more and more and more monopolistic over all kinds of industries, right? They control it. When they changed the IDFA rule, I mean, that changed like the business dynamics for small businesses that relied on those types of ads. Like, it wasn't just like big game companies, right? Yeah. And there was a tax that Apple's charging on the entire economy, and I don't think they often think about that when they start passing out these tyrannical rules. And so I think Tim, is trying to be the people's advocate, but look, I think we as gamers are only benefited when our oligarchs are fighting each other over what's right for us, over like, trying to be our advocates as opposed to trying to be the advocates for Wall Street or a lot of other causes. Sorry, I went over there.
I was going to let you keep going. I was going to give you Dubs minutes. So it was going to be fantastic. We'll end with Wills here.
No, Chris said everything I was going to say much more eloquently than I could have.
Yeah, poetry. So we'll end with that one. We're going to go into actually Fortnite, which is what's the word for Fortnite Runner. Fortnite's latest season introduces full extraction gameplay, collects sprites, extracts loot. Extraction is a hot genre right now. Dark and Darker from Tarkov, all the proved the loop works right for our creators. But Fortnite has been bleeding players hard, down from 2 million concurrents last summer to roughly 1 million now. Viewership is down. Partnerships aren't really doing the moving of the needle. The Reddit season's reviews are mixed. Some praise the new loop. Others say it feels completely disconnected from the core Fortnite, talking about how Modern Warfare wants to go back to core. Does Fortnite need to do that? Epic's move is always the same. Copy what's working, creative mode, racing, now extraction. The question is whether Fortnite is becoming the everything platform and diluting its identity in the process. But isn't that also what we wanted? Isn't this supposed to be the metaverse? But no one's seeming to want to be there. What's the word to describe what Epic is doing here? It is a Hail Mary, a smart pivot, trend chasing, desperation, or something else. Defend your word. I'm going to go all around the loop first, and then we'll go to the people putting up their hands right now. So we'll go start with Michael.
The first word I'm going to say is smart pivot.
Lost.
Extracted.
Dilettante.
Well, since I have a golf shirt on, my word is going to be par.
My word is just keep running. Just keep running, following whatever it is. Just keep moving, Epic. Just keep following whatever the hit thing is. Surely people will remember how fun it was.
And my word, Wills, is listen. One word, Wills. One word.
Well, I was flowing into the topic.
Charles Barkley. I got two words.
Trying to make it into a whole little slick thing.
They don't even want the word, dude. The operators want the sentiments.
Yeah, I think we just found out that the panel can't count.
Yeah.
Actually, my second word is late.
I feel litigated.
Amazing. Okay, well, sorry, Wills. I ruined your monologue there. We'll go to Wills,
good.
then Koji, then Knock.
No, but I think it's exactly what I was talking about before. I think Fortnite, they had success early on. They were like, "Ooh, everyone likes this Battlefield thing. Everyone likes when we add skins into this game. People like hanging out in this game, and it seems to be the game that people are returning to. What if we just make this every game in one?" And I think that they've tried to do that very unsuccessfully, and they've really just ended up pushing away their core audience. Like even the people I know that play Fortnite aren't playing Fortnite anymore. They haven't touched Fortnite in years and years and years because it stopped being what it used to be and tried to become everything else. I think I remember when we were still, like I think a year ago, we were still talking about UEFN versus Roblox as like the kind of two titans of UGC. And that battle has very clearly been won by Roblox because Roblox never had an identity. It never had anything that it never had like a core audience per se that it was attracting. The only thing that attracted people to Roblox was the UGC. And Fortnite has gone the reverse route of starting off with a really, really strong core experience, building in all of these extra bits and bobs that worked for a while, and were also just hadn't been done before. Like so much of what made Fortnite exciting was the fact that people had never seen these skins in a game before. People had never seen a concert in a game before. Those were all really cool, but I think what made them successful was the novelty. It wasn't that they were actually repeatable, like enjoyable experiences over and over and over again. It was the fact that it had never been done before. I think that this is telling of the fact that Fortnite has run out of things that have never been done before. So now it's just running to all of the things that are being done right now and seeing how quickly can we copy them and push them out so people stop playing other games, and it's just not working.
Yeah, I could see that. I would push back on the Unreal Engine Fortnite. I think Unreal Engine Fortnite, I knew a lot of developers at the time that were really all in and created some really cool stuff as game developers. But the biggest issue that they had was discoverability. And if you look at also Epic Store, also a terrible discoverability problem too. Like there's no like festivals like that Steam puts on. There's nothing that like really Steam does very well, which is pretty much publishing as well. Epic has nothing, as well as a whole bunch of developers on Unreal Engine Fortnite made some really great games. I was working at Champions at the time, and I was talking a lot with the A16Z guys, and they were saying that Unreal Engine Fortnite has some of the coolest experiences being made right now, but no one could see them. There was like 3 players, 4 players. It was terrible.
Just jump on that really quickly. The incentives are always going to be messed up when you're building stuff on Fortnite because Fortnite's building their own things. They're building their own game modes that they want you to play. Whatever you make is going to be secondary to the experiences that they're creating. Like they're going to be pushing their big Star Wars experience that they just launched over whatever cool UGC experience you've made because they have infinitely more to gain from that being successful than they do from your UGC being successful. So, and that's why I'm saying Roblox is doing so much better is because they're not pushing any of their own content. It is the UGC that is the funnel and is everything. Exactly. Whereas the incentives in UEFN just aren't aligned in the way that they need to be.
Gosh, good take. Koji.
You know I'm Canadian because I didn't hit Wheels with the shut the fuck up there. There's been so many examples in the past of people making content for games that's even unauthorized, right? We look at the first sort of like form of even Counter-Strike as an example or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, if it's good enough, I don't know that you necessarily need the company to push that stuff, to be honest. It just has to gain some virality, but that's not my point. I think this is par for the course, right? Like saying like, oh, they shouldn't do this, like they should stick with what's tried and true. Well, I mean, clearly what's tried and true isn't working for them as much anymore. Like they're on the decline. And really, they got their start by iterating, right? They had a version of a game they thought was going to work. It might have slightly worked, but not as much as they wanted, and then started to decline. And then they found, the sort of battle royale with building mode that, was their bread and butter. And I don't fault them for being like, okay, well, let's just see what else we can do out there to try and bring people in, because it's not as if they were the very first battle royale game ever. Right. So to be like, well, that worked for them, and yeah, but they took, I borrowed whatever like from somebody else, and for them to continue to do that to see if something else is sticky, like how can you blame them? Yeah. I think that like otherwise the alternative is just keep feeding us the same garbage until you die. Right. And I don't know necessarily that that's going to work. So I don't blame them. Like maybe not all of their at bats are going to be home runs, but I think eventually they have enough IP behind them. They have enough everything else behind them that if they can find something viral and sticky again, that'll work. But like, anyway, to go back to my first point, like things like Dota and whatever are spawned out of mods for games that were fully unsupported. So I don't necessarily think that like you need to have a game's blessing in order for like your content to shine through.
Yeah, agreed with that too. And I always just felt like Fortnite was trying to be the metaverse, right? So like you kind of need to be able to do that. You need racing, you need extraction shooter, you need like literally all the game modes that they're trying to build out right now. They're building and they're kind of bleeding player base whenever they should be getting that. I'm not too sure there. We'll go with Knock and then we'll go over to Michael.
Yeah, they're lost, just like much of their player base. I mean, like, look.
Thank you for saying one word, by the way.
Yeah, part of the problem with Fortnite that I think most people just do not give enough credit to is that the actual core gameplay is so unique and is so difficult, and the skill cap and the difference between a player who picks up the game for the first time and somebody who maybe played it 40 hours a week 5 years ago, that player who hasn't played the game in 5 years is going to be playing a different game than anybody who picks up Fortnite for the first time. It's like, all right, you haven't ridden a bike. Well, now you're going to ride a bike, but you're going to do it in Mandarin. That doesn't make any fucking sense. And that's what's happening in a game like Fortnite. The way that the game plays, the core mechanics are so different that along the way, they lost a lot of the exploration and the excitement and the mini games, the games within the game when you drop into Battle Royale and people are racing at the racetrack. Like, the core gameplay is so difficult that they alienate a lot of people who have not played the game. So they have to find ways to dumb it down. They tried it with something like No Build, where a bunch of people came in and they wanted to play for a little while until people figured out No Build. And then it became who understood, third hand peaks better than other players, who understand the movement in Fortnite better than other players. It is not a game like CoD where you can pick it up every September, shoot a gun, get a handful of kills every single game and enjoy it for a couple of months. If you jump into a Fortnite lobby and you have not played that game, unless you're killing bots, you will not kill a regular human being. It just will not happen. Right. And that's part of the problem. We had Joe on the show about a month ago talking about how if they changed a couple things like the mechanics or the camera angles, you could have a real exciting future for something like UEFN. But right now, I think that they're just lost and they're desperately trying to tap into game modes to get people to come and play the game by stripping back other core mechanics within Fortnite. Extraction shooter in Fortnite is just not going to do it.
Yeah. I feel like they also had a copy of like a tactical shooter back in the day with like, I think it was like Valorant or Counter-Strike.
Yeah, which was a lot of fun, and you played a lot of game modes and there were rounds and it was exciting, but it was exciting if you knew how to play Fortnite and you knew what Valorant was. True. Right? That's a small group of people, relatively speaking.
Venn diagram. Yeah. Agreed with you on that. We'll go to Dub and then we'll go to Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. On top of everything everyone else, I like where Fortnite's at with all this. I think they're like an indicator of just the gaming market as a whole for this segment kind of dropping. Like, I think there's just less people playing shooters on console and on PC and that stuff as a whole. And that's why we're seeing that. And I think they're still in a good position to maintain like market leader and all that stuff. I'm really interested to see if they engage in like live events again, like bring me Travis Scott, maybe Nicki Minaj too, and could be a good time and bring a ton of people. The second point I had has totally escaped me at this point, but Knock had pretty much said it more eloquently anyways. So
all good. We'll go over to.
He played STFU on himself there.
I know exactly.
Finish him.
The thing, am I muted too whenever that happens, Lips? No, hopefully it's not.
I muted everybody else. I didn't realize the power that card gave me. My mistake, gentlemen.
In terms of that. Okay, perfect. In terms of this, like, I also want to pitch this over to Michael and Chris, and then everybody else can kind of raise their hands as well too. But like, where are all these gamers going? I feel like everybody's bleeding, and there's no gamer. Where are they? In my opinion, I have no clue where they're at. They in single player games, never like showing online. Michael, and then to Chris, and then we'll do Will's. I just saw your hand go up.
Yeah, real quick to answer your question, in my opinion, they're everywhere. Entertainment is a flowing industry, so it's not just like Fortnite's competing with other games. Fortnite's competing with TikTok, with Instagram. Fortnite's competing with everybody's obsession now. Not everybody, but a lot of people's obsession with AI and building stuff on AI, because in itself, that's a game in itself. So to me, it's not that they're just bleeding players. It's just players have so many options these days, and that's why you see the gaming industry starting to shrink. When to answer Dub's point, no, they definitely should not bring back these live events, because the live events started failing the minute everybody was able to get out of their houses. The last like huge live event was still kind of like right after quarantine time, when people were still like, oh, should I go outside? Maybe not, blah, blah. But we're all outside now. We're all fully outside. So no, I don't think they should bring live events. I don't think that's going to bring the players back. I do think Fortnite has a unique advantage right now where they are the everything game. They can be any genre that they want. And yes, their racing game failed. The other one failed. But you know what didn't fail? Lego Fortnite. Lego Fortnite crushed it. So to me, it's kind of like, hey, you have the capabilities to run into any new fad that you possibly can. You can run into what's hot. If you run into what's hot in the right way, players will come in. If you run into what's hot and it fails, you can quickly move. It's kind of like they're like a landlord, and they're just signing tenants as these little different game modes. And the one that sticks is the one that sticks. The one that doesn't gets evicted. So to me, it's not a bad business strategy, because it's not as if they're going to release Fortnite 2 the same way we saw Overwatch 2 and it just fails. Like, people already are familiar with this type of genre now. It's not the new thing. It's not the moat that they had back in 2017. So to me, as if them chasing these new fads is what's going to keep them alive, keep them relevant, because all they need is one fad to stick, and that's going to bring in players for the next 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, I also love it. Like, I think they have an amazing like seasonality to Fortnite as well too, that they can try these things and just like, okay, that didn't work, let's just erase that. We'll go over to Chris.
So my original word was dilettante, because jack of all trades, master of none is not a one word. And then I said late, to be more specific. I think if they were going to do that, I don't think there's anything wrong with them following game trends and wanting to capture game trends, but like capture it when it's a trend, when it's on the way up, right? They like, if they had done this, before Arc Raiders, or, even a year before Arc Raiders, it probably would have been huge for them when everyone was talking about Tarkov and, some of these other games that were coming out.
Right.
Now it just feels like everyone's over the extraction shooter thing. All the extraction shooters are on the way down, and they're introducing one at the wrong time. They got a 2.5x lift on it. I just looked at the data. So, from where they were, but where they were was like the worst, in the engage, like the MAU, their concurrency they've ever had. So, 2.5x is probably not enough. I think, to the point about kind of Fortnite also losing its identity. So there was a conference, and Tim Sweeney did an announcement. I can't remember if it was earlier this year or last year, where they showed Verse as like a portal for their games. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to flip it where you have to go to Verse to get Fortnite, and then Verse will be the Roblox, right? And they'll take the UEFN content and stop forcing people through Fortnite, instead force people to get to Fortnite through Verse. Will that strategy work or not work or whatever? But I think that will give them maybe the latitude to do some of this other stuff, because I think what you guys are saying is right, that there are some good experiences on UFN, but nobody goes there because in their mind it's a battle royale game, right? And the thing is, they rode battle royale for a really long time, and they were able to own that. But now, like, the trends are so far away from battle royale, it's not even funny, So I think they've got to find a way to kind of squeeze the juice in the lemon of Fortnite a little bit more to try to get to the next thing, and that's what they're trying to do, but I think it's going to be the metaverse.
Yeah, great. Wills, and then we'll end with Knock.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say here is something we talk a lot about with Roblox, but not so much with Fortnite. It's just the population aging out. Just like this aesthetic, this kind of content getting old for kids who used to play it. Like that's what Fortnite was. Fortnite was a kids game. It was kids running around the street doing the little bloody dance, we love Fortnite, we love Fortnite. That's what it was. And it's lost that because those kids don't love Fortnite anymore, frankly. And I think until they're able to kind of figure out, how do we bring in the new generation of kids, which are all on Roblox. So that's almost, so they're almost screwed.
Roblox has been really good at transitioning that age group up, and they're still in Roblox.
And not arguable, I would say. But I think that both of these games had such a strong audience, and we're like, oh, these guys are going to want to play the game forever. And then they grew up and they want to play real games. That's where you asked the question, where are these people going? They're playing games like Art Raiders. They're excited for games like Call of Duty 4. They want to play real games. They want to play real games with more serious tone, more serious mechanics that ask a little bit more of them as players. And that's what people are getting moving towards.
All right. Well, Knock, you have your podium. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, I have to take on two things, one from Chris and one from Wills. Chris, the full quote is "Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes still better than master of one." And I think the point that you are trying to get across is exactly that. If you take enough shots on goals, you might attract some players to the space, and that's how you start to build out UEFN as a real player. Michael Christine, got to give a tip of the hat to you for mentioning Lego Fortnite. I forgot about that. That game was fucking excellent. And then I'm going to dig into Wills, because we know that our panelists don't read the topics. We know that Dub doesn't listen to the things that are being said. But more importantly, Wills doesn't even back up the data that he's bringing. Most of Fortnite's player base, only the professional players skew younger than 18. And I think what you're seeing here is a lot of people still care about Fortnite. They want to play Fortnite. The problem is, if you don't have friends that are playing the game, you might as well be speaking a different language. And I think what Joe said back to that point a month ago is they need to find another way to present things like gunplay and camera angles, because it is a major blocker to anybody jumping into this game. And I think when you take a game like a BR with unique mechanics and unique camera angles and unique gunplay, and you throw it into another hardcore genre like a fucking extraction shooter, what you're doing is creating the most abrasive environment ever for a casual gamer to come in and try to play the game. So half points to everybody. I think Fortnite still has a chance, but back to my original word, Peyton, because I'm the only one who played the fucking game mode. Lost. They are lost.
Can I just say, Will's being our resident woke panelist, it's on brand for him to come without facts.
Oh, dude, that's hilarious. All right, next up here, we have topic 4. GameSpot owner buys Balatro publisher. Red flag or green flag? Integrated media company, owner of GameSpot, Fandom, Curse, and Screen Junkies, backed by TPG, is acquired Playstack, the publisher of Balatro, with about $150 million. Playstack has an 85% hit ratio, which is absurd for any publisher, let alone any indie one. The conflict is obvious, though. The outlet that reviews a game may now be owned by the same company that profits from selling it. Playstack CEO says it's business as usual, but consolidation moves in one direction. Red flag or green flag? Is media owning publishers a conflict of interest that corrupts coverage, or is it a lifeline for a media industry that's desperate for cash? Or even, I'll add something new, is it like just them leveling up, as GameSpot? We'll go with, I think Knock was first, and then Dub Wills, then Koji.
I gave everybody shit for not playing the game mode, and here I am gonna half play the game mode. It's a green flag, but for none of the reasons that you just said. I think it's a green flag from a publisher perspective or from a media company perspective, because this is the exact sort of thing that you want to see, right? You're seeing this with Amazon and Prime Video. They play ads before the show that you're watching, and you can add the thing in the ad directly to your cart from the ad. Crazy good thing for Amazon. I think the same thing here for GameSpot, right? You were reviewing games. You want to have some of the upside in the games that you were reviewing. I think it's a green flag from a business perspective. I also think that it can be a green flag from a review perspective, because ultimately the reason why people watch and consume content from GameSpot is because they believe that there is some form of legitimacy to the ratings and the rankings that they're giving. If they start to fuck around with those rankings and they start to inflate the rankings of the now publisher that they've acquired, obviously, I think that breaks down user trust. We've seen that happen with a number of games, magazines, and publications over the course of the last decade. There's no reason why GameSpot would be any different. I think it's a green flag from a business perspective, potential red flag if they start fucking around with the results and the reviews of these particular games. But more importantly, if they're smart, they will continue to review these games properly, and they will be able to capture in the upside in the quality games that the publisher that they're purchasing has a track record of publishing, right? It's like an 85 to 90% hit rate. So if you just keep the status quo, review those games, you're now capturing in that upside. For me, green flag with the potential to get red real fast.
Gotcha. Dub.
Dude, I'm a broken man. Like red war flag, dude. I'm devastated. Like this is terrible, and it can't be good for the business either. Because like as a core fan, this was the only game I've been playing as of late, and like this just means this is getting more ads. This is like getting up. The game is perfect. It does not need to be touched, and it passing on to another owner. It's just red flags all around. It's a bummer to see, and ultimately like. Sure, I get your point, Knock, for future titles from the publisher and everything there, but like I think this is just the first like death sign of Balatro, and it's just downhill from here because they're not going to treat it well. And from my point of view,
I got
capitalist pigs, dude.
Some thumbs down from Wills. Wills, why don't you go up next? Oh, he just dropped. Koji, you're up in the seat.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a brown flag. This is a who gives a shit. I'm gonna mix them both together because it doesn't matter, man. Like, what are we talking about here? The biases of game ranking organizations. You guys live in America. Your news outlets can't even operate without bias. You can't even get world news without it being full of nonsense garbage. And I'm not talking about Trump's fake news. Although you could spin it that way too if you wanted to, and we're here being like, well, I don't know if this guy who owns this game is going to give it a 9.5 or a 9.2. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? You know, and I say that only because like everything has inherent biases, no matter what the organization is, and it's all bullshit. Like all of this exists to sell you more crap.
Yeah,
you know, even the rating organizations that I grew up with, things like Pitchfork that were notoriously eviscerated albums, are now just like such middle of the road nonsense because, you need to buy the fucking, I was going to say Katy Perry, but I don't know. What do kids like? The new Billie Eilish album or whatever, right? It's just like, it's completely nonsense. And like, I think that like they can probably divorce themselves from the publisher because the people who are working at the magazine are not the people who are working at the publisher. But like ultimately, who cares? We're not going to get honest reviews of any of this shit anyway. So it's such like a mixed red and green flag for me that I'm,
as soon as like media companies like get paid to also do those reviews, it's like it's unbiased like from the start, right? So in terms of some of it, and also like some deals in the back parties and stuff, it's just no one's unbiased. Everyone has a bias towards it. Do you think, Koji, real quick before I move on to Will's, is like, do you think that Balatro or some of these games that are fantastic within that publisher is going to get affected by this, or you think that if they're smart, they're just going to be business as usual?
It honestly could go either way. Like, could they shove in a bunch of like garbage IP into Balatro? It's like, to Knox's point earlier, can we get the like C players from John Wick as cards in Balatro? Like, maybe. Will it actually affect the game? Like the cards will look different, but who gives a shit? More content in a game I like is more content in a game I like. I think it's probably fine. It's pretty hard to like massively derail decent indie games because they're so small and on certain rails anyway. But that being said, I wouldn't put it past greedy assholes to fuck things up that I love. So who knows?
Very true. Very true. It's happened before. We'll go back to Will's and then we'll end with Chris.
Yeah, I think that the game journalism aspect of this is actually the most uninteresting part, because if you're going to games journalism for your opinion on games, you're living in 2005. Like, game reviews haven't been good in at least 10 years. So I think that's a much less interesting part of it. I think what's much more interesting is that a publisher like, who's buying publishers these days? That's really interesting. Why is that happening, and why did they pick this? We've been throwing around the stat of like 85% hit rate, and I was actually kind of curious what that means. And the closest that I could get was that they said all of their games are, you know, on track to make revenue, but the actual number comes from like the IRR being 180%. So it's like, oh, they've made an extra 80+% on the money that they've made. That's all I could find, which, you know, that just means Balatro is really good. You know, that's no secret sauce by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that's like, it's really interesting to kind of think about why is Integrated Media Group so interested in buying Playstack right now? Do they think that Balatro has legs? Is there another game in the pipeline? What about the strategy are they really interested in? I think because at the end of the day, indie publishers are just hippie VCs. They're taking a bunch of bets on small games and hoping that 1 out of 10 of them hits. And I think it's really interesting to see that as a purchasable business model. And I think that like I think it's exciting. I think it's a green flag for the industry as a whole, because I think that it shows that people are looking at publishers and looking at publishing models in really exciting and interesting ways. And, you know, fuck it, it's some M&A in gaming. God, we haven't had much of that in the last sort of 4 years, have we? So it's good to see that people are moving and people are interested in the space. Is this, you know, super healthy and super consistent for what things are going to be like? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's a really good like point though, right? As it gets hit with it's to wrap it up in terms of that stuff. But like GameSpot is like a media company, and like where do they go? To your point, like people are putting less stock in the reviews of journalism and then more into like Jinxie. What is Jinxie saying? What's Asmongold saying? What's all that stuff saying, right? So they have to kind of upgrade in some way. And it's really cool to see GameSpot be like, okay, well, we need to take a chance, and maybe this is their chance. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, to parrot a little bit about which Koji says, I don't think it matters, because I don't think anybody actually reads these game review at all, other than other VCs being like, oh, they, you know, IGN, GameSpot, they reviewed my game really well. Gamers don't read it, majority, you know, and so I think it's a good idea because they need to, you know, diversify themselves, because if they're going on the idea that we're going to make a bunch of money for a long time being a game reviewer, well, guess what? Look at us, you know, people on this panel. We're basically game reviewers. Anybody can be a game reviewer now that has a camera phone, and an internet connection. So I think it's a good move, but I think it's kind of like a nothing burger. Do we think it's going to become corrupt like everything else? Of course. Are they going to put the thumb on their own game scales? Of course. That's why they're doing it. But that also, you know, lends itself to why people don't really trust any of these game reviewers anymore, because a game reviewer will review a terrible game as a 9 and review a game that's a hit as a 5. And that's pretty obvious from a gamer standpoint of who paid them and who didn't. So to me, it's a pretty big fat nothing burger. I don't give a crap what IGN says about a game anymore, or GameSpot, or any of these places. It's not 1995 when I'm like, oh my God, what did they say about this game? You know, it's 2026 where I'm like, I'm going to play the game or I'm not. Whatever you say as a critic, you're usually wrong and you're usually out of touch in the first place. So to me, it does not at all matter.
Yeah, gotcha. How about you, Chris?
Balatro will not change because it's owned by its creator and they control it 100%. And I don't know what the deal between them and Playstack is, but presumably they can sever that relationship if they're unhappy at some point. So, and that may happen. If you look at the logic of the deal, I mean, whatever they are, the integrated media company is their private equity fund, right? And so it's just a roll up. And what these guys do is they look for high margin businesses. And you know, the reason they like media and the reason they like publishing is they're adjacent businesses that are, you know, can be relatively high margin if you keep your costs under control, because they don't make anything. They just, you know, media is cheap. You know, publishing and marketing doesn't have to be a lot of headcount, a lot of upfront costs. Most of the games that they're publishing are games that are pickups. You know, I did look at the corporate structure. So they are keeping. So GameSpot is under Fandom. Playstack is being bought by Integrated Media. So they're not putting the publishing organization underneath the media organization, which I think would be more of a concern. But certainly, when Playstacks is out there selling, talking to potential games to publish, they're going to say, well, we also own Fandom and, they're our sister company and we can help you, blah, blah, blah. Now, the people having been in that in Disney, where we had like Disney, Disney trying to get media from ABC or whatever, is the media side always pushes back. And it's almost like worse than it's actually worse, right? Than not owning it, because they feel like they have to push back on you. And so they're harsher on you. So it may backfire in a way, but it's not going to hurt Balatro. I don't think it's going to hurt anything that anybody cares about. It's strictly financial. It's like nothing bad is going to come of this.
Right. Good takes, and also very educational. Really, really cool. We have this last topic here, very interesting, that I wanted to end on. PlayerUnknown's Prologue dies. Who is to blame? Brendan Greene spent PUBG money building Prologue Go Way Back, an open world survival roguelike launched in November 2025, and now it's dead. Studio downsized, development canceled. Greene says, and I quote, "I have reached the limits of how far I can continue to fund this journey. The pattern is getting harder to ignore. One-hit creators keep burning their war chests on vanity projects, while the original cash cow keeps printing. The same money could have funded multiple smaller, proven genre titles." We kind of talked a little bit about this like a few weeks ago, talking about, do we fund a more bigger IP or into indies? And instead, it bought 6 months of a dead game. So who is to blame? Greene for overreaching, the investors for betting on a vision over viability, the genre itself for being impossible to launch into, or the industry for lionizing founders who would have stayed in their lane? Assign, blame, or defend it. We'll go with, sorry, I didn't see the names go up, but we'll go with Koji first, and then Knock, Chris, and Wills.
Amazing. Mine was the last one to go up, so I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. I'm just happy you're here, Koji. So whatever will make you happy.
That's right. I support you hosting the show, Sam. Who? I honestly, I think nobody's to blame here. This is what making games is, right? Like, you got to take shots, and when something doesn't work, for someone to be like, "Oh, well, it's this guy's fault or that guy's fault or whatever," like, who knows? It could be. There's a lot of instances of bad games, for sure. And there's a lot of instances of, like, mismanaged advertising and all of this stuff, for sure. But there's also just like good game, wrong time, right? When something fails, it could be that, like, you look back on it later and you're like, actually, this was a masterpiece, and it, just didn't have the audience at the time. And I'm not saying that that's what this game is, but I'm just saying there's a lot of possibilities here. And to try and lay blame on why something fails, I think that we're seeing more and more failures publicly. Like, things are getting farther than they used to, I suppose, right, in the industry. And so it's like more apparent now that things are failing. But anyone who's worked at a larger studio will tell you, there are people who have worked in the video game industry 10, 15 years and have never had a game that they worked on released because they've been binned way before it even got to public consumption, right? So this is just a thing that happens. And I think that, like, we can backseat dev or armchair dev and be like, well, they should have done this or they should have done that, or they had this much money, how could they possibly have failed? And it's like, there's so many factors that go into success or failure of a project, and so much of it is outside of your control. To say, like, hey, you should have done this or you should have done that, is crazy, and to blame anybody is completely insane. And we can see that. I'm over time, but really quickly, we can see that this weekend in movies is like last 2 weeks is a perfect example. You look at something like Mandalorian and Grogu. On paper, it has everything that you wanted. The IP, the built-in fan base, the storyline, blah 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 blah, and yet dominated by things like obsession and back. Because you never know. But if I would have asked you a year ago, which one do you want to put your money behind, and let's say the returns are all equal, you'd be like, well, Mandalorian for sure. Yeah. So, like, anyway, my point is, like, it's easy to say I blame this person or that person, but I don't think anyone's to blame here.
Yeah, I love that take as well too. And you said, Disney, so I'm going to go to Chris first. Sorry, Knock. I'm going to get Chris to cut you in front of that line, and then we'll go over to Knock.
Games are hard, man. I mean, this is proof for those who need to understand it. Games are hard. They're hard to make. They're hard to market. Even the people who are the best at it fail all the time. That's what happens in the industry. Brendan's mistake was, to violate one of the 10 crack commandments and, never get high on your own supply, right? He somewhere in there, it's like, don't invest in your own game, like, don't put your own money in your own game. I made that mistake with Mystery Society. I was like, people were like, are you sure you want to spend your own money? And I was like, I'm investing in myself and I believe in me and, all this shit. How's my wife feel about that now, right? So, I feel sorry for the guy, but I'm glad he gave it a shot. I mean, it just shows how hard it is.
Yeah, feel sorry for him and feel sorry for your wife. I will go over to Knock.
Dude, okay, first of all, is this a vanity project? I'm going to give you a little bit of lore here. PUBG is literally the guy's alias combined with his real name. PUBG stands for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, but it's literally the four letters of his name. PlayerUnknown was his gamer tag. His name is Brendan Greene. PUBG is literally his fucking name. Of course, this was a vanity project. PUBG was a vanity project. He built it out of an Arma mod. Is he insane? Absolutely. The guy is the father of the battle royale genre. He's what's popularized it. He was brought on by Sony to help with H1Z1. The guy obviously is a lunatic who believes in his ability to build things. Chris said he violated one of the 10 crack commandments. I'd argue that violating one of those 10 crack commandments in the first place is the thing that made PUBG PUBG. That said, you're going to miss, right? And it's okay to miss. But guys like Brendan Greene are the guys that we should allow to take these chances because their history says they'll take a chance. They'll deliver something that maybe doesn't necessarily exist elsewhere. It's the way that we get movies like Obsession, which if you haven't watched it, is fucking insane. And the idea of the movie is wild. And to roll with it on the budget that they did was obscene. I think that you want to enable these crazy idiot geniuses to build the thing. Sometimes they're going to fail. Most times they're probably going to fail. But when they hit, you've got a game like PUBG that not only created a genre, but defined it for the better part of the last decade and a half. I think it's unfortunate that it didn't work. The good news for us is he's still got another shot on goal coming out in the next 3 or 4 years. Project Artemis is still alive and well. So last game didn't work. PUBG worked, but these are the types of lunatics that you want to give free reign to go and try and build something because they deliver crazy things.
Can I just say also that, even asking the question, how do we feel about it or whatever, like whatever the non-controversy on this, I don't know if this is millennials or Zoomers or whatever, but they gotta accept that shit happens sometimes. You know what I mean? Not everything is a fucking is morally wrong or not everyone is doing the wrong thing by trying. I feel like if you try and then you fail, it's there's a bunch of people who want to dunk on you and be like, why did you try it all? Fuck those people, right? Yeah. The guy took a swing. I hope he takes 7 more.
See, Sam's made this show, and everyone who exists on the internet exists for the take machine, right? You need to throw out the wildest takes you can possibly have to get clicks, which is either this guy is absolutely the best or fuck this guy, he sucks, he should die. And there's no in between. Right?
Make sure to cut that, Koji. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, he's a villain for spending millions of his own dollars. That's going to be the intro on a game for me to play. What a prick!
Bill, cut that and send it right to Sam.
Yeah, the 10 crack commandments is what we're going to start with. But also, okay, one thing about this is does the 10 crack commandments also Knock? You're saying he was also hungry, right? I feel like a lot of this though sometimes and I would like to hear it from Chris and Koji and Michael that have bigger teams and have managed bigger teams. But in some ways, do you also just get high off your same supply, Chris, but then also just be hey, I'm him. And then just also spend a whole bunch of, I know, but there's a difference one of saying I'm him and being an underdog and kind of gritting through it versus I have money and I'm just going to spend it kind of willingly. And it just kind of goes everywhere and you just don't know where it goes.
I think it's very hard. I think it's very hard to have a second success immediately after a first success, and almost nobody does, right? I mean, let's talk about somebody who's him,
I'm still chasing
Steve
the first
Jobs.
One, Chris, so in terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs, had a great run, got fired, had kind of a whiff with Next, then went on in one of the most legendary runs of all time. Like, that's the hero's journey, like
Right.
It's very rare where somebody just puts out banger after banger after banger. Because it's the same reason musicians, like, they're like great, like everyone is in their 20s, but by the time they get to their 30s or definitely 40s, like their best songs are behind them because they've gone through all the heartbreak and all the blah, 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 blah. Now their life is about,
shout out.
taking care of kids and paying bills, and it's not they're not as hungry as they were, right? It's just reality. It's hard,
dude. Even Tom Brady missed the playoffs twice. You know what I mean? Like, it's impossible to hit every fucking
That's
time.
why I don't want Wimby to win. Knock, over to you.
Yeah, look, I think you have to be a little delusional and probably a lot insane to want to be a founder. To want to be a founder in games probably cranks that up 3 or 4 or 5 more degrees. But that's the way we get great games. It's the way that we get great pieces of art is you have absolutely delusional people who think, surely I can go and do the thing. And most of the time they don't, but occasionally they do. And when they do, you get great things that define generations. And for me, Brendan is proven to be one of those guys. He's a lunatic who made a mod of a game that turned into one of the most well-recognized IPs of all time. Can you expect him to go back to back? No, it's been well over a decade since PUBG launched, right? But I think that these are the types of people that you want to empower because, one, you have to be crazy to do it to begin with. If you get lucky enough to find success, you have to be certifiably insane to go, let me go and risk all of that success and try it again with something that nobody else has seen before. And he's doing it twice now with the game that I don't even remember the name of the game that failed and Project Artemis in parallel with one another. I don't know, man. I think like you want to empower people like this because sometimes and most of the time you're going to get a bunch of shit. But when you don't get shit, you get something that's great. And I think the idea that you should spend that money on a safer indie title or a genre that people already understand is how we have topics like the first 3 topics where we're talking about shit like Call of Duty not bringing in skins and Fortnite missing their audience because they're chasing trends. You want to empower the lunatics. I'll bet on
Here's to the crazy ones.
Here's to the crazy ones, man. I know it's hard to win back to back. I know. OKC, RIP. We'll go over to Will's here, and then we'll do Dub and Michael. And then also while this is going, you guys can also say your MVP after your take. Go ahead, Wills.
Yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy for me. I think a lot of the good points have been made, but I think that this is the dream arc for every game dev is you have your hit game and you're able to use the funds from that to go out and make your dream game. That's how you're supposed to do it. That's how the system works. Is you build a couple of games, you build up a repertoire, you build up a war chest, and then you get to use that success that you've had and that creative freedom to go out and fail miserably. That's the freedom that you get that money provides you. And I think that this is like every game dev kind of dreams of getting to this point where they can just say, I want to make a giant survival craft RPG. Like that's a big thing when I want to make, and I get to control every aspect of how that's going to be made. That's not a position a lot of teams find themselves in. Right. And look, I think that like he says it in the letter, unfortunately I've reached the limits of how far I can continue to fund this. He's just been paying for it, now he's in a point where he can, restructure the studios, move people around, refund players potentially. Like that's the best way that you can possibly do this. And I think that this is just a symptom of, sometimes shit doesn't stick, and that's fine and that's okay. And the best position to do that from is a position of strength where it's your money, it's your game, you get to call the shots. And frankly, I think it's so many teams do so much worse for their reputation and for their studio by not killing things when they're shit. So I have a lot of respect for the way that he's done this.
Good point.
And by the way, if he wanted the money, right? If he wanted to go raise money, he could. And if he wanted to sell it, he probably could, but then he'd have to sell himself, right? He'd have to agree to make the next game for whoever he sold it for. So credit to him to say, hey, if I'm not willing to put my own money into this, I'm not going to ask other people to, and I'm not going to put handcuffs on myself. I'm going to cut bait and just go to the next thing.
Yeah, Chris and Wills, who's your MVP? Wills first.
Oh, my MVP is going to be Knock.
All right, Chris, who's your MVP?
I'm gonna give it to Koji because I don't think I've given it to Koji, and I think Koji just has a consistently it's the moral compass of the show.
It's funny. I don't think Koji ever give it to Koji before, so I'm gonna give it to Koji. Maybe he does. Hilarious. All right, we'll go to Dub, and then Dub, give your MVP after your take, and then we'll go
I'm coherent here. I don't understand what this dude's gonna do. Like, is he really gonna kill this game? Like, for me, the shit didn't stick, but does that mean you throw away the shit? Like, I think he's gonna put this shit in his closet. It's gonna stink for a while, and then all of a sudden, it's not gonna stink anymore. He's gonna ship it,
Yeah.
So I'm looking for. I just wonder if that's really going to be what happens with Prologue, and how does that, because I have the feeling that all these studios, when guys like this situation, these savant type of game developers, I don't think they can let their creations just be buried and be deleted. I think they have it somewhere on some fucking Mac Mini, locked in another room and
running on his Hermes.
Ready to whip up, at some sort of moment. So that plug and play solution is going to happen, and then we're going to see everyone's dreams become reality. So, I'm just looking forward to that future.
Yeah, he's just been building an agent environment for his game for the last few times.
Which is why I picked Knock as my MVP, because he really made me realize that I was the idiot in the room, and I appreciate that.
I love you, Dub. I love you. All right, Michael.
Yeah, so with this one, it's interesting, and I'm going to reference the very famous Hiromu Arakawa. And for those of you who don't know, who aren't anime fans, Hiromu Arakawa created one of the greatest anime of all time, called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's a lot of people's top 3. It's a lot of people's top 1. He just released a new anime this year called Demon Sword of the Shadow Realm, or Demon Realm, something like that. Demons of the Demon Realm. And that show is failing miserably. And what it goes to show is, when you look at somebody who's had a lightning rod success with an idea that they've had, oftentimes that lightning rod success is only a one-time thing. If you look at any of the other stuff they've created or they wrote, it's absolute garbage. And so by finding somebody who's actually made multiple hits over and over and over again, that's extremely rare. So to me, this is a major green flag for him, because he didn't waste anybody else's money. He just said, I have a passion project. I have the gift of God. I'm going to make this game. And, it fails. And that's what everybody who's ever had a success usually thinks is, I'm going to be the greatest thing for the next 20, 30 years. But in reality, that's not what happens. We just saw OKC unceremoniously crap out. And
I gave you the mic drop, and now I want to take it right back.
To me, all it shows is that, it's really, really hard to catch lightning in a bottle. So to expect somebody to do it, multiple times is kind of insane that we expect that. But the ones that do, that's why they're the rare people in society, and that's why they're celebrated, is because it is such a hard thing to do. Don't get me wrong. Do I think he's going to put this in the closet and then re-release it? Probably not. If I'm him, I'm just this didn't work. Let's go on to the next thing. And the guy has enough money to be able to do that. So,
right. Who's your MVP?
My
Michael?
MVP? Let's give it to Walt Wills today. He crushed it. I gave him 2 mic drops, I think.
Yeah, he did get a lot of mic drops out there. Knock, who's your MVP for today?
What's the count right now? If I give this to Wills, does he win?
Well, you can give Koji another participation trophy. I think he would love that.
No, we don't want that. I'm gonna give it to Wills. Wills was on one today. He had 2 bad takes and a sea of very good takes, and I'm gonna give him the MVP for the sea of very good takes.
How about you, Koji? Who's it at?
Well, now I have to give it to Wills out of spite, so that Knock for sure doesn't win. But I think I also gave Wills a mic drop. Also, it's worth noting really quickly that Prologue is a single player experience, so it can live on, right? And people can still play it. So I don't know about refunding players or needing to do any of that. If you enjoyed it and you're playing it, fine. He doesn't need to continue with it. But anyway, Wills MVP.
Nice. And so that gives Wills the podium. Wills, congratulations on winning MVP for episode 163. You got 1 minute of fame, big dog. Go for it.
Finish him.
Michael, just a 10 second. So you only have 50 seconds after your silence is done, Wills, for that.
What's up, dude?
Extremely toxic
just
behavior.
trolling.
Just
Just
all
trolling.
you can
Funniest
expect
thing.
from this
You
guy.
can't do that.
No, that's fine. I mean, I don't know. I like all I want to plug is go out and explore games. Like I think a lot of the reasons that the players are dripping out of these games like Call of Duty, like Fortnite, are because they want to play cooler games. They want to play the games that feel like, you know, I'll say this over and over again, feel like they were built specifically for them. And I think that those are the games that are going to succeed. And like that's what I've been trying to do is find those games and help them be successful. So if you do anything this week, go out and play a stupid little game, you know?
Stupid little game. Wills, thank you so much for winning MVP. And also just thank you for everybody making the substitute teacher's job a little bit easier. Thank you so much, Chris, Koji, Wills, Dub, Knock, Michael. That is episode 163 of Gamified. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. It's not live, so never mind. We'll be here next week sometime on your timeline.
We will.
We will. I'll see you guys later. Peace.